put out a concept album, you know, an album in which all the songs were linked in some way, that had some kind of sense of order, that there was a general continuum about which flowed through the material and which the material attended to. That is considered a conceit in the pop industry, because in the pop industry the idea is that, you know, which is something that I very much ascribe to. I think it is a wonderful thing, you know, that you know, the great thing about a great pop song is it's like your daily bread. It gets you through the day. And I was once a very, very good baker of bread. But I can't do it anymore. I just can't be bothered. Other people can do it far better.
So how does this most recent compilation fit in with what you are and what you want to do right now?
It's the end of what I used to do. It's come out. I did actually owe one more album to Atlantic, and I was really wondering what the fucking hell I was going to put out. And then, luckily, they sacked Doug Morris, who was the guy that signed me, and I had a keyman clause. Meaning that when he left, I didn't have to deliver the album.
Wow, that's amazing.
So I agreed to deliver this final collection and to promote it with some small concerts and radio and TV, which I've done, and I must say I very much enjoyed doing that. But you know, my life plan is that I will not try to make pop records anymore.
I see.
And then I don't have to make any more fucking videos.
you say that with sort of resentment dripping from your lips.
Well, doesn't everybody? I suppose there must be people that like being pushed around by people that most of the time make hairspray commercials, but I don't.
I see. So you really want out, and you want out bad. And
I am out. I've been out for ages, really.
Yeah, but as we speak right now, you're in the middle of a slew of interviews with the foreign press. Is that the phase you're in right now?
No, I'm doing 2 interviews today with Japan. That's all. I mean, and I think this is probably really in response to the fact that I told my record company that I'm very interested in dispelling the notion that I've received from a few Japanese journalists that I hate the Japanese. I'm very keen to dispel that, because I think Japan is probably a very good place for me to start looking at developing this new craft. You know, I do think that there's something about the way that the Japanese respond to experimental work with great interest and capacity to concentrate, that maybe would give some of the things that I'm planning a bit of a shot, a bit more of a shot than they would get if they were chatted about on VH1 or, you know, Entertainment Tonight, or alternatively, you know, they appeared at the Almeida Theatre or the Royal Court or the Young Vic or some other arty-farty joint in you know, out in London. So. But I have been very conscious lately of the fact that it seems to me to have been a great mistake that as for me, not so much as a member of The Who, but as a solo artist, to have never even visited Japan. But the world is so big. I mean, this is the thing that bothers me always. I find the world just too big. I find it, you know, when I was in The Who, it was always the only way that we could meet the audience that we needed to meet was to play these huge fucking football stadiums, and I hated it.
But the musical world, I mean, in terms of musical markets, is not that big, and Japan figures very prominently economically in the musical world. How is it that you could have overlooked a market this big?
Well, I don't think we've overlooked it. I think we've actually said that we couldn't honor it. We couldn't do it justice. There wasn't enough time.
Wow, but I mean, couldn't you have snuck in 2 weeks in between stadium?
Well, would that have been honoring it?
Well, I mean, nobody else really spends that much longer here because there aren't that many places to play.
Well, I don't know. I mean, as I said, I concede that it's probably a mistake, but that's where I am today. And I certainly think that this is something that I need to put right.
Yeah.
Although I'm attempting to put it right at a place where I'm actually making an enormous change in my life.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons the other reasons why I suppose it's interesting to look at what might happen for me as a writer, as a composer in Japan, is that, as I suppose you must know, is that Quadrophenia, for example, which is a piece that I'm very interested in trying to develop as a concert theatre piece, has always had a very strong attraction in Japan, even though it's quite parochial. It's very much an English idea. It's in the last 5 or 6 years, the whole idea, and particularly this year, of all years, the idea of what mod came from, what the expression of mod was all about. The idea that behind fashion and behind the apparent mindless dressing up and everybody looking the same, that behind that was some kind of spiritual search, some kind of spiritual yearning which could only be expressed in congregation, seems to be something that Japanese people understand. And so we might actually bring Quadrophenia to Japan. I haven't got any plans for that yet, but when we finish, we're doing it in Hyde Park on the 29th, and then we're going to take it to New York so that we can try doing it indoors. And then I'd like to try and do it in a number of other places, because I just think that I think it's the best album that The Who made, but I also think it's one of the most cohesive stories that I wrote, and in doing this kind of thing I learn a tremendous amount. It seems to me to be a fairly safe entry into the Japanese performance area. But what I'd really like to do is I'd like to come over with my guitar in a suitcase, and play a few small concert halls.
And what kind of material would you be doing? Would it just be a lot of selective material over the years? Or
Yes, I just did a small tour like that in the States. I played House of Blues and the Fillmore and the Supper Club in New York. And I really, really enjoyed it. I don't think the audiences were much bigger than 1,000 people. And I played all kinds of strange things. I played songs from my career which are fairly rare, but I also played, a couple of Mose Allison songs and a thing by Charlie Mingus and, folk songs and odd things like that. I mean, but basically, what I was trying to do was trying to learn what it is that I still have as a performer, as a solo artist. It was like being reborn. It was very interesting. And I was genuinely happy on the stage, which is not something that I've ever been before, really. I've never really liked being on the stage very much.
And that was just you and your guitar, that's all?
I had a guy with me, a guy called John Caron, who was a keyboard player that I met. He worked with Pink Floyd.
How do you spell that name?
It's John, Jon, and Caron, Carin. And he played Kurzweil and sang, and he's quite a good guitar player as well. So what he was actually able to do was he was able to help me, play a much wider variety of material than I otherwise could have done. I played piano quite a lot as well. I'm not very good at the piano, but it's important that I play it on the stage, because so many of the songs that I've written on the piano, and they sound better when they're played on the piano, even if they're played badly by me.
This is a rather crass question, but as you're talking about making a big break with your past while exploring these new artistic avenues, how exactly does this June 29th Prince Trust gig for The Who fit in What exactly?
Well, it's firstly, you know, it's only the press that are calling it a Who gig.
Mm-hmm.